Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive on why India is set to outgrow China in the coming decades. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, go check it out. We laid out 5 foundational reasons: demographics, urbanization, low base catch up, momentum, and a booming middle class. Now, let's finish strong with the remaining 5 reasons why the Indian elephant may end up leading the global growth parade. Reason number 6: India's red carpet versus China's red tape. Let's talk about two playbooks. India is laying out the red carpet for business. China, more like red tape, and it's only getting thicker. Over the past decade, India has been reforming. It launched a nationwide goods and services tax, cleaned up bad loans with new bankruptcy laws, and jumped nearly 80 spots on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. That's not just noise, it's real momentum. Policies like Made in India and massive subsidies are pulling in manufacturers. And in 2019, India slashed corporate tax rates, some of the lowest in the world for new factories. India isn't perfect. Bureaucracy still exists. But the direction is clear. The country wants your factories, your capital, and your innovation. And it is reforming to get them. Now, compare that to China. Once the land of to get rich is glorious, China has slammed on the brakes. The government has cracked down on tech giants, tutoring firms, and real estate. Xi's common prosperity vision sounds nice until your IPO gets cancelled at the last minute and your CEO disappears for months. Just ask Jack Ma. Foreign companies now walk on eggshells in China. One day your business is fine, the next, your app, your VPN, or your entire industry is banned. Zero COVID policy, lockdown cities on a wing, and just as suddenly lifted, like flipping a switch on a $17 trillion economy. That's not governance, that is roulette. So here's the split screen. India, a chaotic democracy moving toward openness. China, a command economy moving toward control. And that matters because innovation thrives in freedom and capital prefers predictability. India's legal system may be slow, but it has rules. In China, the party is the rule. No surprise that global investors are starting to whisper the same thing. India feels much safer. Over the next 2 decades, that red carpet versus red tape dynamic could decide who pulls ahead. India is getting more fertile for business. China, dying out fast. Reason number 7: India's quiet tech revolution. While the world watches GDP charts, something bigger is brewing in India. A digital leapfrog that could redefine global growth. Enter the India stack. Biometric IDs, instant mobile payments that turned hundreds of millions from off the grid to fully banked and transacting with a thumbprint. This isn't just flashy fintech, it's structural transformation. Small shops in remote villages can now borrow land and sell like big city chains. UPI handles billions of transactions a month. India skipped the credit card era and went straight to cashless. China took longer to get here, and even now, it still lacks a unified ID system. India isn't just catching up, it's leapfrogging. Now, zoom out. 10 years ago, India's tech scene was known for outsourcing. Today, over 100 unicorns. E-commerce, edtech, AI, space tech, all booming. Cities like Bangalore are pulsing with innovation. Flipkart rivaled Amazon. Jio gave 4G to half a billion people. And the people behind it? Indian entrepreneurs and engineers, many of whom now run Google, Microsoft, and that brain power builds momentum. Meanwhile, in China, tech once soared, Tencent Alibaba, but now crackdowns and regulatory landmines. The brightest minds pulling back. In India, they're charging forward because India has what China doesn't: an open internet, English fluency, global connections. No great firewall. India startups tap into Silicon Valley, partner with global R&D labs, and ride the wave of geopolitical tailwinds. As the West decouples from China, India is becoming the go-to tech partner in chips, AI, you name it. So, what do you get when you mix rapid digitalization, a useful population, and a free flow of ideas? A full-blown innovation engine. If the 2000s were about China becoming the world's factory, the 2020s and 2030s might be India's time, not just to catch up, but to lead. The elephant isn't just walking anymore, it is coding. And that might just make it faster than the Chinese dragon. Reason number 8: India's secret weapon: friends in the right places. In geopolitics, as in life, your friends matter. And right now, India is the popular kid at the global table, while China is being left out in the cold. Western democracies are cozying up to India, not just because it's a democracy, but because it is the only real counterweight to China in Asia. The Quad Alliance, US, India, Japan, Australia, is going strong. Defense deals, tech collaborations, supply chain realignment. India is suddenly in every strategic conversation. The US running military drills with India. Europe signing investment pacts. Japan moving factories from China to India. Why? Because India is seen as stable, open, and most importantly, not likely to pull a geopolitical stunt in the middle of a supply chain crisis. Just look at semiconductors. When the US cut China off, guess who got invited to build the cheap infrastructure? India. Or EVs and electronics. Global companies are racing to set up shops in India, not because of charity, but because geopolitics now demands it. Meanwhile, China is stuck in a diplomatic deep freeze. Trade wars, sanctions, tech bans, and trust issues have made China the unreliable X in the global economy. Even countries that still do business with China, they're quietly hedging. The phrase China plus one isn't just corporate strategy, it's foreign policy. India is grabbing the open seats. And regionally, China is sparring with everyone. India at the border, China in the East China Sea, ASEAN in the South China Sea. India's got its own issues, sure. But overall, its neighbors are more comfortable letting India take a bigger role. Every energy is going India's way. Thanks to its diplomatic flexibility, India can buy oil from the Middle East, the West, or even discounted barrels from Russia, all without setting off alarm bells. China's deals? Always under scrutiny. Bottom line, India's got a global fan club. China's got red flags. In a marathon of economic growth, geopolitical tailwinds matter. And right now, India is catching the breeze. China is running into the headwind. Reason number 9, manufacturing's big shift from made in China to made in India. For decades, made in China ruled the world. But now, there's a new phrase echoing in boardrooms across the globe: China plus one. It means companies want a plan B, a second home for their factories. And the front runner? India. The pandemic, trade wars, and rising labor costs exposed the danger of putting all your supply chain eggs in a China basket. So companies are diversifying. Mexico, Indonesia, but India checks more boxes. Why? Because India offers something others don't: cheap labor and 1.4 billion customers. Build a factory in India, and you don't just export to the world, you sell right there. And the shift isn't theoretical, it's already happening. Apple is assembling iPhones in India. Foxconn, Samsung, all pouring billions into giant plants. Toyota and Suzuki are ramping up local production. And let's not forget India's crown jewel, pharmaceuticals. Already the pharmacy of the world, India is positioned to grab even more market share as companies seek to move away from Chinese suppliers. The Indian government sees the opening and it's acting fast. The PLI scheme gives juicy incentives to companies that manufacture in India, from solar panels to smartphones. And it's working. Interest is booming. Now, let's be clear: India won't replace China overnight. China's manufacturing machine is decades ahead. But India doesn't have to replace it. Just grabbing a slice is enough to supercharge growth. Even shifting 10% of global manufacturing from China to India, that's millions of jobs and billions in investment. And it's already started. Textiles, electronics, auto parts, semiconductors, even fighter jet components. India is becoming part of global supply chains in ways it never has before. Think of it like a stock portfolio. The world is reducing its exposure to China Inc. and increasing its allocation to India Growth Fund. Not out of charity, but out of cold, hard business logic. India is cheaper, freer, more politically aligned with the West, and has serious economies of scale. As the China Plus One strategy unfolds, India's manufacturing sector could spark a modern day industrial revolution. Ports, highways, skills, exports, a flywheel of growth. Meanwhile, China will try to move up the value chain. But that also means slower, more mature growth. The boom years of factory field takeoff, they may be done. Bottom line, India is rising as China levels off. The global factory is getting a second address, and it is not made in China written all over it. Reason number 10, financial resilience and open institutions. It's not flashy like tech or manufacturing, but this is the bedrock. India's financial and institutional resilience. Let's start with one word: debt. China's drowning in it. Local governments, SOEs, and property developers have all been binge borrowing for years. Skyscrapers, ghost cities, empty malls, all built on mountains of debt. Now, the cracks are obvious. Major real estate firms have defaulted. Banks are carrying bad loans. And the property market, which holds most of China's household wealth, is sliding. India, a different story. Yes, it has challenges, but Indian banks already fought their bad loan war back in the 2010s and survived. Its debt is mostly domestic, rupee denominated, and far more transparent. India simply never had the credit binge China did. That means fewer ticking time bombs hiding in its economy. For long term investors, the risk of waking up to an Indian banking meltdown is far lower. Stability fuels growth. China's system? More like boom bust on steroids. Now, let's talk about institutions. India is messy. Loud parliament fights, coalition politics, endless debates. But that's exactly what makes it durable. Policies are argued and adjusted. Leadership changes through elections. Contracts are honored. The press and the courts, while imperfect, still act as checks on power. China, the opposite. It's efficient until it isn't. The same top down system that built 10,000 miles of high speed rail overnight can also erase an entire industry or lock down 20 million people with zero warning. Investors hate unpredictability, and China's government is full of it. And here's the kicker: democracies are messy but self correcting. India's history proves it. From near bankruptcy in 1991 to political upheavals, the country adapts and reforms when pushed. China's centralized system lacks that safety valve. And India's soft power advantage, global CEOs, Bollywood, and a diaspora all over the world, and the world simply feels more connected to India. English fluency and openness makes it easier for capital and talent to flow in. China, with its firewall and censorship, is far more isolated. Bottom line, India's open, flexible framework is built for steady long-term growth. China's opaque, debt-heavy system is a speed bump waiting to happen. So let's step back. We've just covered 10 tectonic shifts from population and policy to tech geopolitics and the very structure of economic power. And here's the truth: India is rising, China is stalling. The elephant was slow to start. For decades, it watched the Chinese dragon sprint ahead, building highways, exporting goods, dazzling the world with skyscrapers and stats. But now the dragon is gasping, slowing, stumbling under the weight of debt, demographics, and dictatorship. And the elephant? It's picking up speed, fueled by youth, innovation, democracy, and a world that is ready to bet on it. Factories are moving, capital is shifting, allies are lining up. And for the first time in modern history, the global center of gravity is tilting away from Beijing and toward New Delhi. This isn't about who gets there first. It's about who stays in the race. China may still have scale, but India has direction. And in the long term, direction wins. So whether you are an investor, an entrepreneur, or just someone trying to understand where the world is going, watch India. The elephant is not just walking, it is now charging ahead. And the dragon, it may be breathing smoke, but the fire is fading.